Good evening, and welcome to the November 13th meeting of the Planning Policy Commission. The first thing on our agenda is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a second. Any discussion, changes? With that, I will call for the question. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Great.
Tonight we're going to continue our comp plan discussion, and we're going to talk about parks,
Yes.
and we're going to talk about human services. So first of all, Tricia's going to give us an update on, you're on the agenda.
Right, the first piece you're going to see is the updated parks element, and Jen Fink from the Parks Department is here to present it to you. You might recall that in the summer I presented the existing plan, which is several years old and had not had any amendments or any changes done to it. It was just more of an education on where we're starting, because I knew that soon we would have a new and improved element to share with you, and that's what we get to see tonight. You have it in your packet. It's so complete with inventory and all sorts of good stuff in there. And Jen's here to present it and to also answer your question. And also the director, Ann McGill, and the Deputy Director, Brian Bernstein, is here also in the audience to help us if we have all sorts of questions, which I don't think we're going to have a lot of questions, but just in case, they are a super resource for us as we move forward through the parks element. The other piece that Jen may go into, but I remember was a little confusing this summer when we presented, is there's the parks element that is our purview, the Planning Policy Commission and the planning piece of development services, and that's the policies and goals for the parks system. But the Parks Department has a bigger parks plan that they have to update every 5 years, is it? 6 years? And that's in order to get state monies and other funding to help us with our park system. So they're two different documents. The similarities are the inventory and the policy pieces, but their plan, the big plan, which I call it, doesn't have to be done until next year. So there's a lot of good work that's going to be done on that with outreach and public involvement and all sorts of other pieces to that aren't included in our little element part. And so sometimes it's hard to keep those two separate in our mind. So I just wanted to say that as an introduction, that sometimes I even get confused on, are we talking about the element or the plan? Because ours, PPC's purview is the element piece, the policies and goals. So with that, I come on and step up to the podium and
Welcome, Jen.
be relaxed. And
Thank you. Do you want the long version or the short version? Thank you for having me. Tricia's right on as far as the planning policies. I've only been here 3 months, and so getting involved in tackling this policy update for the park element took a little bit of time. As she stated, the big plan, as she called it, I'm going to say that for simplify the title of it, is due to the Recreation Conservation Office in March of 2016. So this element that's presented tonight, while some of the policies have changed relative to what you were previously presented, some of the other documents that it references are from the past. I had to jump ahead a little bit and kind of start in on the big plan in order to create this document for the update. So when we come up with a new plan for the 2016 big plan, we will have a little bit more detail and information and touch on some subjects that were not mentioned in this element, like recreation and programming and other items that really are part of the park system. So to start, I think I just wanted to quick mention what the mission of the Parks and Recreation Department is. I think sometimes we get so drilled down into the details that we forget what our basic mission is. So the mission of the Parks and Recreation Department is to strengthen the community image and sense of place, support economic development, strengthen safety and security, promote health and wellness, foster human development, increase cultural unity, protect environmental resources, provide recreational experiences, and facilitate community problem solving. So when I took a look at the park element, I wanted to take a little more holistic approach than some of the policies that were previously mentioned to, again, address recreation, to address new plans that have come into action since 2009 when these policies were prior written, like the Central Issaquah Plan, some management plans we have for open space and other things. So some of the inventory was categorized to represent other management documents that we have. The larger park plan, the big plan due in March, will go out for, we're going to do a survey of community to get input on the park and recreation system to help identify some of our strengths and our weaknesses to be able to plan ahead on. We'll also be putting it out for public comment and review, as well as, I think that's it. So let's see. Let me quick pull this up. Let's see. I thought I would just kind of quick walk through the park policies for you, assuming you've all read the document. Like we said, the reason why we're doing this is because of the Growth Management Act and its requirements, and what our purpose is. Bear with me a moment. Rather than really drilling in on why each individual policy was changed, I'm going to approach it by addressing each group of policies, what the thoughts were behind it, and then if at the end of each section there's any questions, please feel free to ask and let me know. The first one, the objectives to plan for our parks for today and the future. A lot of times we get so busy looking down the road we forget to look at where we are right now and what our policies and our park systems need, and to include multi-recreational opportunities, proportional to our current needs, but also with the foresight of what our future goals will be, future growth patterns, and things like that. So while we're operating today, we always have to keep tomorrow in mind. And we need to plan our park system using, planned growth patterns and ideas as to where development's going to occur, like the Central Issaquah Plan really has represented, programming where the new open spaces are going to be, trail connections, things like that. And then also seek perpetual opportunities. What are we going to do as far as our programming and our other recreational facilities to always keep ourselves new, to always seize an opportunity when it's posed to the recreation system, and anticipate that within our needs. The next one is the acquisition and development policies. It's our job to acquire lands, both for recreational uses, but also for conservation purposes. We can also, lost my train of thought, sorry. As far as even the areas for annexation, but as far as development policies as well, there's already in the CIP, Central Issaquah Plan, development for a quarter-acre, half-acre parks within a radius of a neighborhood development. That's a goal for design, to be able to afford some type of park system within that. And when I get into the big plan, I'll be addressing how the different parks and try and come up with a map so we can look at it a little more graphically, how we're doing as far as the shortfalls, or if we are providing to our goal of a 1/4 and half-mile radius. So I'll be striving towards that. We also want to support the green necklace. Issaquah is wonderful in that we have so much diverse population and demographics, as well as native environment that we're able to fulfill and connect and meet the urban interface with the natural interface. We have 51% tree cover right now in a built environment within the city limits. And that's just an amazing opportunity. But with all of our natural resources and future plans, we are forced with how we're going to have to deal with that interface. And it becomes a little more technical and a little more difficult, but is very achievable. We also need to, look at developing our parklands to maximize the opportunities. A lot of times a piece of land is purchased with grant monies and there's restrictions as far as development. But if we can afford a pathway through that land, let's try and develop it. Let's make our system the best it potentially can be within the parameters set forth on any given piece of property. We also want to identify neighborhood needs and make sure that everything's connected within riparian corridors and tree-lined streets and all of those things, and make sure we're connecting to connecting our comprehensive trail, all of our open spaces, green necklace, linkages, so on and so forth. Let's see here. Are there any questions so far as the first section of policies? Okay. Sorry, I've been a little wound up today. Our second goal is to foster and support stewardship, provide balanced needs within our park system. Oftentimes we think parks are just parks, but we also have facilities, recreation, programming. We have users, we interface with special interest groups, we have natural growth protected areas, we have trails, we have all sorts of different varieties. And a lot of times we think it's just parks, but there's also a lot of facilities within that and programming that goes along. So we really need to think broadly, take a little more holistic approach to the park system and how we're going to be addressing it and the changes. Like I said, we have the interface between the natural resources, the built environment, and really the city is to serve as the stewards of all of these different properties and the interface between them. So we get into our balance needs policies. Which is access and education. Everyone should have access to the park system, not only just through a trail, but to be able to go work out at the community center, to be able to go use the Trails House if a special group wanted to be able to do it. There's a lot of different options out there for people, and we need to be able to address that as well as the diverse heritage that the city represents. I've mentioned connectivity many times, but as we continue to grow, we really do need to connect everything to help promote health and sustainability, especially as the city begins to grow. There will be a lot more need as the population increases for a healthy park system to be able to offset the density of living with open space and recreational opportunities. We also want to be sure to promote and protect environmental quality, our open spaces, and cultural experiences. Strive to provide universal access at each facility where feasible. We understand that, ADA is a challenge to make every ounce of everything accessible, and I know a study has been done recently. I haven't seen the details of that, but it is something that as we move forward with the park system, where feasible, to strive and provide that to our users. Especially as populations change, demographics change, and recreational needs also change. different park element policies, planning. It's a goal to create a very vibrant, active recreational park system. We want to embrace different types of plans that have been set forth and incorporate them and make sure that all the different plans are talking to each other and striving to work towards the same mission as far as making Issaquah one of the best places to live. We also want to create a sense of place. You know, you should know when you're at a certain park that it's a city park. When you're on a trail, you should know that you're on the Rainier Trail. And especially as new trails come into the system, you want to know where that trail is going to be able to take you, or that you know you'll be able to get to a safe street along the way. That's even true when you're up in Tradition Plateau. You want to know that, okay, I know these trails will connect me somewhere that I can get myself back to, and gives some cues to people. We also want to utilize our vegetation wisely, and that includes, using drought-tolerant plants and being wise of our resources. We also want to encourage play areas.
I have a question.
Yes.
You're talking about native and tolerant vegetation, water tolerant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything here about noxious weeds. So any comments about, attempt to eradicate noxious weeds wherever they are? I just never found anything in there. I think that should be.
That is not in here. There's certainly
That
something
part of
we
policy or something you would follow if you had.
That's usually in
things
our
there?
integrated pest management.
Right.
Is one of the plans, and noxious weeds is in that as far as a management
Okay,
practice.
pest dealing.
Yeah.
Usually pest is dealing with other live critters, not plants.
Right,
So-
and further on in the management sections, we do reference the integrated pest management and other various management documents that we would reference in the policies,
Okay.
but
I
not
think-
specifically noxious weeds.
Yeah, so I just think here we're talking about native plants and so forth, and
Mm-hmm.
it would be worth having something dealing with noxious weeds here, because I didn't get that into integrated pest management, and pest management to me goes to the, live, insects and that type of nature versus.
Right. That's a wonderful idea. Let's certainly make that addition. Anything else? We move on. Signage. Signage is one of those strategic items. You need it. Some people want more. Sometimes it can be overused and create clutter and visual hazard. Within the park system, it's our goal to use it wisely and minimally, as to not deter, but also to use it when needed to provide direction or education or information for people, for park users. Visual policies, we're blessed living in the Issaquah Alps with beautiful vistas, native environments, and we really, as part of our stewardship and part of the beauty of Issaquah, need to embrace that. So within the park system, try and provide both relief from the built urban environment, as well as protect our vistas and our native scapes, like the CIP has done with in its development. Again, creating a sense of place within our boulevards.
Just going back to P51, I think we want to emphasize that we don't want to mitigate necessarily all impacts of the urban environment, just the negative impacts. And so just to make sure that that list is talking about the negative impacts that we have as a result of being a dense city.
Great suggestion. Anything else? Access policies. Again, it's our goal to create a vibrant park system and provide active and recreational facilities to as many people as possible. And that also includes programming. But we want the opportunities to be consistent with what the intended use was. You know, we don't want to contradict that, and I forgot what I was going to say. Scratch that. But healthy living, I think this is one of the best policies that we've added. Is the Parks and Recreation Department is all about being active, getting out there, enjoying your outdoors, moving around. And this policy is encouraging people to do that. We want people to be outside. We want them to have opportunities to walk or to ride their bike or to push a stroller or to go trail running if they would want to. But we also want to be able to provide those opportunities for those who may be underprivileged, and be able to make those opportunities affordable through scholarship programs or whatever we need to. So that nobody is left out and all can afford a healthy lifestyle.
I guess I'm confused. What does that mean? Your scholarship program, what is that going to specifically address?
Some of the underprivileged are,
No, I understand who the people would be, but what is it they're going to be? It says encourage healthy living. What does that mean, or active recreation? Is it scholarships to the community center? What does it mean?
that is specifically for the community
Yeah,
center.
scholarships, basically the money's not going to be, it's not going to keep kids from participating in programs. And a lot of those would be either at our aquatics facility, community center, and some of those programs. which
You
are-
can't,
You
they
have to be
can't
up
hear
to the
you. You have to
microphone.
go to the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. It's for our big television viewing audience, so they can hear.
Sorry about that. Usually I'm told to be quieter. So with the scholarships, basically the money would not be an issue for kids to participate in programs. And you're exactly correct that most of the times that would be at our community center, aquatics facility. We also run programs throughout the Issaquah School District, so that would be the primary use for that.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
And so, going on that, we may want to alter that a little bit to foster the development of scholarships for recreational programs and facilities, so that we're not unduly limiting the council in that.
Very good. Thank you.
And I guess, how would you, how would you encourage healthy living? Are you going to, are you going to advertise? Are you going to, what are you going to do to encourage healthy living? Or is this just an odd add-on from the other first part of that sentence?
I think healthy living comes with having those items available to you and making it an integral part of the community. As far as healthy living, if you know there's a trail there and you can walk from your home to somewhere, or you can easily access a trail or another park along the way. You know, a lot of times people are afraid to get out. And I think encouraging healthy living is...
So how would you encourage? How would you put brochures together to explain that this is good for you? What would you do to encourage?
I'll grab that one too if I can real fast. Yeah, exactly. With the brochures, you know, we do a brochure that's out to the public online. We also reach out to the schools and work with them. And it's the opportunity, like the healthy living components, just it sort of is, and it's what we do as Parks and Recreation, right? Getting kids exposed to nature and the outdoor environment, as well as getting them exposed to youth athletics at a young age in a friendly environment where they all get to play and participate. So we do reach out through the community, but everything has a healthy living component to it to expose people to physical activity in the outdoors, to get out and get moving type of philosophy is what we sort of guide ourselves by.
We
I
have a
think
lot
I
of
understand
events.
that. What I was questioning, do you need to add anything on there, or is everybody content with just encourage healthy living?
I see what you
Fine,
mean.
okay.
Anything else on that one?
Go on.
Okay. Local partnerships and regional coordination. We are so very fortunate to have interlocal agreements with the Issaquah School District. The park system relies heavily upon the facilities to help with some of our programming, as well as all those students then in turn use our system as well. So it's a real win-win situation for all users that benefit. We also have wonderful programs with King County and Department of Natural Resources. But overall, our management policies, we talk about in this, the topic was regional and local, but we talk about ours as our local as first. In our service and management policies, we address, our stewardship, offering diverse park programming for all different needs. We also address safety, and that comes in many various forms, from vegetation to facilities inspections to pruning vegetation. We also embrace citizen involvement, special interest groups. A lot of volunteers help make things in our park system happen. And resource management. We could not manage everything that we manage in the diverse manner if we didn't have the integrated pest management, our open space management plans, stewardship plans as well. We rely heavily upon those to help protect our resources. Facility management. We also perform routine inspections. We help minimize the impacts. And we utilize maintenance operations manuals and other operating procedures to help ensure public safety when our facilities are being used. We try and embrace best management practices in all that we do. And back into the partnership policies, again, the interlocal agreement with the Issaquah School District. In the design and development processes, we partner with developers to help encourage active recreational play spaces and park development or trails.
So one thing I'm not seeing under the partnership policies is kind of keeping an open eye towards potential county, state, or federal funds for parks that may become available, a specific policy.
That's the next section down. That's in 9, the regional.
Okay, regional coordination.
Yeah. And then teamwork. I think it should be a goal of the Parks Department to also, Park and Recreation Department to also work with other interagency teams and divisions to make sure our park system is wonderful. And coordination occurs during the planning process and communication and development. Regional coordination is also one of our favorite opportunities. We depend and work a lot with the Department of Natural Resources, King County, Fish and Wildlife, in not only achieving grants, but in the management of our natural resources. We seek a lot of because we interface with so many public lands, it also provides a unique opportunity there for us to connect our trails or to provide and protect our waterways, like in the waterways program along Issaquah Creek, obtain land to help preserve habitat and native vegetation. So our working relationships with them sometimes aren't always right at the boundaries where we interface, but also on our waterways and our other natural resources within the city limits.
Yeah, and I'm still not within this objective, seeing kind of that just keeping an eye out for monies that aren't necessarily tied to any cooperative agreement where we're not necessarily working with another agency in a partnership, but things like, federal grants that may become available. So what I'd like to see is a specific policy, maybe 9.3 or maybe a policy within 8 that we will seek external sources of funding through grants. I think this cooperative planning addresses partnership efforts, so I don't think it would need to be anything other than looking for funding elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions on some of the policies? That kind of, yeah.
I don't know if I'm on or not. Maybe I'm not.
I can hear you.
There's a constituency that's underserved, and I think underserved, and that's my constituency, seniors. And at the community center, I had suggested several times that they look into Senior Sneakers, which is a program that is subsidized basically by most of the HMOs. And I've never gotten a good reason why this is not part of the program. So I thought I'd make a pitch for it while you're here.
Well, I'm glad you did. And being new, I have not, this is the first I've heard of that, so I'll have to go back and reference. But I will be sure as we go addressing in the big plan, the recreational opportunities, to make sure we look into making sure it's balanced for all users, including the seniors. Yeah. Any further questions on policies?
I just need a clarification.
Yeah.
With the Arts Commission, we're putting together a brochure that encompasses every art facet in the city. And I know you referenced a brochure that the Parks Department puts together. Do you have a brochure that I'm new to the city, I can find out just every park and how it's connected with a diagram? Do you have that? Or is it, I know that there's stuff that talks about what's going on in the community center and all these other things, but just in relation to parks.
There is, in our Parks and Recreation Guide, there is a quick reference matrix in the very beginning. So if you are looking for parks with picnic tables, you can quick reference which parks those are. Or with restrooms, as far as the parks themselves. And in this new updated element, the park system has been broken out into different categories from what it was priorly referred to. And within those, we have these maps of where those are located and the addresses as well.
And
So-
where do you find those?
Well, these were just developed for this policy. It will be in the updated
Well,
plan.
no, in the future, will it be just online, or will it be something that I can
You know,
pick
I
up
haven't spoken with staff regarding that, how we'll get it out there. I know the 2016 big plan that we'll be working on will be posted online when we're done. And I will be incorporating the matrix and stuff as well. But I can certainly talk and see if we can get some kind of brochure.
This is a thought, everybody doesn't look online all the time, and sometimes they just like to have some handout, some brochure that gives you a general idea of where the parks are and what they are. Just a-
And that's something we could probably work to incorporate even in the recreation guide too, is a quick reference map.
Any other questions, updates? Thank you.
Thank
Did a
you.
good job.
Thank you very much.
And what, before you leave, I
Yes.
guess, there's a page back there, but when you, page 29, you got the property acquired since 2009. It's a chart there. and,
Yes.
The total looks off. You might check your map on that. I can't get that added. I know, but it still doesn't have 129. It's like maybe 119. Check your map.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. I thought Excel had done it for me.
Decimal place off there.
I read that, and I couldn't understand. Okay, anyway.
And then
Glad
I
you
guess.
brought it up.
Well, and then other point, just, I guess to clarify my other point on noxious weeds, I wasn't clear when I said I think there should be a policy line there.
Mhm.
Clarify, okay. I didn't say-
Yes, I did catch that.
1954.
Anything else?
No,
All right. Thank you very much.
we all need and love parks, so all of the work is worthwhile, and we're, hope to have many more if we could fit them in the city. What? Yeah, I'm going to. I know that you all received a public comment input on parks. I just wanted to know if you had any questions about that, or if the person who submitted the comments would like to say anything else. I would. Well, now's your chance. I really think that people who come to meetings are really interested in the cities and should have the opportunity, even though it isn't a public comment type open forum here. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Connie Marsh, and I live in town, and I have a business in town too. 1175 Northwest Gilman Boulevard, Suite B11. Okay. I know some of you, and I don't know some of you. So I've long worked with the Issaquah Environmental Council and have done massive quantities of open space maintenance on the board of Save Lake Sammamish. Just got off the boards of Friends of Lake Sammamish State Park because I'm on too many boards. I'm on the board of, Issaquah Environmental Council and work closely with Issaquah Alps. And then I sort of tried on my topics of interest to follow these policies and processes that go through city council to try to make an awesome city. And so it's a little creepy, but I've been doing it for about 15 years now, and this will be my third time up to speak about the parks element in the comprehensive plan. And so far, I haven't gotten very far on making the changes I want, and I'm not sure why that is. Right now, the city council is going through the level of service impact fees. So they are, before the element gets done for the capital facilities part, which you guys, I think, took a peek at, or this, they're going to decide what the park's impact fees should be, which made my eyes blink because I started reading it and went, those level of service standards that we have are actually funding a negative balance for funding for parks. They accepted at some point in time that there was no deficit in the park system, so it was adequately funded, and then they put in the impact fees, but then they also said there was another deficit of 44% that the city had to pay for. And what this basically means is Parks hasn't gotten enough money from impact fees for a very long time, since 1999. This is my opinion, but you can verify it all you want. I think I'm right on this one. And so when we look at how parks should be funded, that's what I've been thinking about for days and days and days, because how do we actually get enough money to get great parks? And I look at the element and I look at the impact fees and I say, you know, what is missing here is what the deficits are, how much those are going to cost, how much money do we need to make a great park system, what should each component of our park system look like to make us say, you know what, that's what we want the park to be. Maybe not right now because it's not there, but this is what we envision it to be the park that we need. And we have parts of all of those things. But I have a hard time thinking we're going to get a great park system if we don't identify what exactly is a neighborhood park and what do we need in it to call it that and have everyone who goes in there be satisfied with our parks. What's the maintenance level, et cetera. And so when I read this element, it wasn't organized in a way that I thought was functional. There were lots of topics under lots of categories that were all crossed, and so I couldn't understand even how to put in my opinions. So I gave you all what I thought the policy decision changes should be. And what I guess the basis of that is, I think we should understand in what neighborhood, each neighborhood, I should say, in the city, how well it's being served by all the components of our park system. And then we can decide from there how much money and where we should prioritize that money to be spent to continue to create this system. And that's how we can make the developers pay their fair share in the neighborhoods that they decide to grow. And I looked at maybe, I don't know, 10 or 12 different jurisdictions around the country to see what they did. And there's a lot of variation, but much of it was how far in each neighborhood are you from each park component? So how well served is it? And that is how you can see what's missing and what is there. And so I would like to see that sort of a standard be put into this comprehensive plan update. I don't feel that our current method of trying to gain parks is working. I work with trying to get the developers to do the right thing, and we don't have any teeth to tell them exactly what we need, so we have a really hard time getting in what I would consider to be appropriate amounts of money out of them to make a great city and a great park system. Is this a total redo? I don't think it's a total redo. I think it might be a reorganization and an emphasis. This element is emphasizing recreation. I don't know if that's right or wrong. It certainly got rid of wildlife corridors. Boom, they're just gone. And I disagree with that, but is that appropriate? I don't know how we're making those decisions. This would create a method of making those decisions. So what do I expect you to do with all of this information? Well, if it were me, which it's not, I would say we need to rethink how we're analyzing our parks. And I would like to see this come back, because there's time. The next time it comes back, this is not a decision night, with some ideas on how we can, without spending massive quantities of money, create a better system for funding and maintaining and prioritizing our parks. One other little bit I would like to emphasize is our comprehensive plan says we're supposed to have a 51% tree canopy, but we don't. I think the Parks Department should be responsible for getting those trees planted to make sure we have 51% of the tree canopy. Okay, and that's just a little aside. That was likely hopelessly complicated, so I hope it was understandable, and if not, I apologize. Thanks.
Thanks, Connie. So as a follow-up to Connie's concerns, at what point I know it says it's in here, so I know you're doing it. At one point, are you going to have a comprehensive park plan where you know where the parks are going to be, what needs to be done on each park? We don't have the preview of the responsibility of coming up with how to pay for it. I mean, the impact fees are basically determined by the city and what you guys think you need to support the system. Is there a process underway to, I know we need all this stuff, but basically a goal of this is going to happen and this is going to happen and we need this to make this happen type of a scenario. Does that make sense to you? Are you working to that point? Any one of you?
I think just part of what, and I'm only speaking for the central plan because we've met on that before, but the central plan outlined several places where there would be big neighborhood parks because there aren't any now. One area is up to the west of the city in what we call the mall property because that's the owners. And so there's a big dot on the central plan map that says that someday when this property is developed, there will be a neighborhood park there because it's underserved. What we weren't able to do through the central plan process is with all those little dots that we knew we needed to have with parks, we weren't able to say what was going to be there in the future. Number one, because we don't know what age group and type of, is it going to be families, singles, apartments? We don't really know what's going in, so we can't really say this definitely has to be a skateboard park. Because, what if it's non-skateboarding folks that are going to live there or near there? And so part of it we left open because we know part of it is going to be determined by who's going to be living there. But the other part is we wanted to be able to work with the Parks Department to find out how they figure out needs for those areas. Because we just did it through, how many quarters of a mile would you have to walk to get to a park? That's one of our criteria as planners. But we knew that as recreation parks folks, they have different criteria, additional criteria than we do. So we were going to take the next year while they're working on the big plan to help fill in those pieces of what would those parks in the central plan need to have to be, as Connie says, to be satisfactory to those areas that they're going to serve. As for the other areas, I don't know if that's part of the update as well as to try to figure out more specifics on what kinds of facilities or things are needed.
So in the big plan, this type of planning is going to happen.
Yes.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's the answer I wanted. But
Yeah. With the, first we'll be doing a survey of the public about our current park system and things that they feel maybe are some of our deficits. So we'll get a gauge on what the current community feel is about the park system. And then I hope as we start going through the planning process and start working more closely with planning and development too, is to acknowledge each of our parks, are they being used to their best, and start doing an evaluation. Normally in the comprehensive plan, the big plan, historically standards from the National Recreation were used. You needed one tennis court per 1,000 people or whatever the standard was. Don't quote me on that one. Just threw that off my top of my head. But there were hard standards. Well, those are no longer valid. People are doing what is good for their community and really gauging community input and user sentiments as far as are they meeting the needs of their community, because what may work for us as far as needing trails may not work for a neighboring community. So having a national standard, as communities are growing and demographics are changing, user needs change. So it's really becoming a more, how are we doing for ourselves? What are our goals for our community? What are our community goals? Are we achieving those goals? And so I hope as we start going through this master planning process to really be taking a more critical look and working with Trish and hopefully getting some bigger ideas, whether or not we need a play structure here or we need a ball field here, or how are we going to achieve those items and have a much better view of the future park system. Does that answer your question a little better?
Oh, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I knew the answer, I just wanted you to
Articulate?
follow up and be on record and
Yeah.
see that there is a plan out there that you're planning to do this.
Yeah, it's work in progress.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Anything else?
I guess just to follow up a little bit and going back on, and I think what she's asking about is the vision. And that's what's, I think, a little light on the vision side here. I mean, actually, statement in discussion says, I forget where it is, but basically land's picked up for parks because they become available. It feels like a mishmash. It just, there's a place. Okay, we'll grab it. And so like bluntly, I've lived here a lot of years. I'm just, the first time I could see where all the parks are listed in this thing, I've been wanting that information for a long time because I hear these names and it says where the heck is that? And it's some little island somewhere or something that I saw a green space, but I never knew it was a park, a city park, right? And so that's kind of combining a lot of things of where are all these things? I don't think the public knows because I don't know and I've been looking for them. And a vision of what, and so we put a thing like green necklace. I don't know what that means. That means a bunch of little dots scattered to the four winds. I don't know what that means either. So I guess the point here is giving some more concreteness to a vision that says we're missing some things and these are some things we're trying to get to would help a lot because I kind of see it, and yes, some things, opportunities come sometimes and you're not aware of them and you want to take advantage of those and you may not know sure where they're going to work in the future, but you grab those opportunities because they are hard to come by open spaces. So it's a combination of taking advantage of those things, but you have to have the vision so you do something good in that process and not just because it's there. That make some sense?
Okay, I'm going to ask one more time. Are there any more comments? Okay. So the Parks Department has done a good job, and thank you for being here and presenting. Right now, we're going to move on to Trish and
Human
Services.
And and thank you guys for presenting and doing such a job, and thanks Connie for sharing your comments too with us. We'll see how it goes for the next time. And we can talk offline about the deficit piece, because I think I can help describe that. Oh, okay. Okay. Silver sneakers? Oh.
Not that I would know.
You've heard speak of it. Now, that was good. I haven't heard of that either. That's a good one. The reason that you got the human services element again, I think you've seen it maybe twice before, is that in going through the requirements of the Growth Management Act this last time, there's food security policies and food, what's the other word, that we had thought we were going to put in, just not reading all of the requirements, we thought we were going to put it in the land use element until we read further on what was required, and we realized it really didn't have a lot to do per se with the land as much as it did with all the human services piece, that it's accessible, that it's available, that there's a lot of different varieties, that it's protected, and it seemed like a better match for the pieces and parts that we have in the human services element. So we drafted some policies and goals in there and sent it through to, I'm not sure if the Human Service, excuse me, if the Human Services Commission was able to look at it. Oh, good. Because I know David sent.
The Human Services did look at it and we were fine with it.
Oh, good, because I know David sent it back, but he didn't, with some edits, and I didn't know if they were just his edits or if you had had a chance to, oh, good, that makes me feel even better. And so those are in there. And what I also put in there, just to see if it was helpful, is I put a matrix of the existing policies and then the new policies or anything different next to it in the next column. And the reason I started with this one with human services is, of all the elements so far that we've drafted, there's more new proposals in human services than in any other element. And a lot of that is because of new requirements from growth management. And a lot of it is because this element was so old for us that there were a lot of really great ideas that we wanted to add. The newest pieces for you tonight are the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act policies, which is the Human Services Goal D. And then, as I mentioned, the Healthy and Sustainable Food Access and Security, which is Goal B. And are there any questions about that, or is there any confusion with the way I've laid out the matrix on, the red is what's new. Let's see, that would be the left side is the existing goals and policies, and the other side are the new ones. And the new ones are in red. Another one I realized I hadn't put in here is there's a whole section on volunteers in the existing document that aren't addressed in the new version, and that's because the volunteers are listed in the indicators that David and Megan presented, is it a month ago now? That's one of the items that they track every year or two on the volunteer aspects of Issaquah. How many boards and commissions do we have? And Joan, you mentioned the Kiwanis. Do we ever track anything that other groups do? And we don't yet. We should, but we haven't figured out a mechanism. But that's why the volunteer piece is not in human services anymore. And I realized as I was going through it tonight that that's not listed in the matrix, so I need to fix that before it's final. Are there any questions on the new policies and goals, or rewording, or?
Have you all read it?
Well, of course they have.
Under HS Goal B, on the healthy and sustainable food access and security, under food security, bullet 2, just wanted to note a typo there after the first sentence. Just we have a comma and a period just kind of hanging there.
Under food access?
It's bullet 2 under food security. Improve access to food for the community now and in the future, period, comma, period. On page 78.
So is it in the number 1 or number 2?
Number
Oh,
2,
I see. It's in the second one. I got it. I was going to say I don't see any bullets there, but now I see where you are. Good catch.
And then I guess to follow, I mean, I'm not commenting on various things of text font things that are just, I'm assuming those are going to be cleaned up and matched up later, because there's times it seems to change in the middle of a series of policies.
And this was a funny one, you know, just to say sometimes things are demented, but no matter how I keep changing this, as soon as I print it out, it all goes back wacky. So I don't know what it is about my machine that cannot control my fonts.
So I figured those kinds of things you'll take care of.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to have Kristen print it next time, because I saw this as soon as it came out and I went, no. But
And-
yes, sadly.
More on the policy end of this, and under policies for B, one of the things that I'm not seeing just specifically spelled out is, and not a huge problem now, but as transportation, you know, goes the way of the dodo, we're going to need to ensure that that we're looking at whether there are food deserts and how we can mitigate those. Meaning that not having just a corner store that doesn't have fruits and vegetables, but making sure that the healthy alternatives are available. And it's kind of addressed within several of the policies, but the trend is to address those specifically as food deserts and mitigating food deserts.
Right, and I've seen those in other cities where they talk about that, and I figured because we're so small, it seemed like such a huge term, but you're right, that's the term that they use when there's just sort of a vacancy of nothing going on in a certain geographic. So I can add that in there as part of it. Other thoughts or questions or additions? This makes everybody hungry reading this one. None? Okay, anything about the ADA one? Okay, anything to fix on the comparison? Will that work for you all to try and do that same format for the other elements to kind of help you realize what's there and what's new and not included?
Yes.
To kind of help? Okay. Because it sure helped me, and I do this all the time, so I thought, I bet this might help us get a handle on what's really changing. Well, super. Well, with that, that's all I have. As you know, there wasn't a public hearing tonight because the part that we thought we had to adopt by the end of this year, turns out that we get a little more time on it, so we all get a little more time. So we don't think the public hearing on everything will be till early next year. So we have a little bit more time, so that's good news for all of us, I think. And your next meeting is canceled because it's Thanksgiving.
Because it's on
The holiday, yeah.
Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes, it would have been.
So,
And then December, same thing, just the first meeting and no second meeting, because that would be.
Correct. Correct. So I know it's
Holiday
pretty
visit.
light, and you're gonna be really lonesome for all this, but we'll try to make it worth your while. I'm not exactly sure what's on for December, but I'm sure we'll have something spellbinding for the December meeting.
Hold you to that.
Right? At least maybe hot water for tea. I'll see if that could be like the big thing. I better make myself a note, be spellbinding in December. Yikes.
so, thank you for all your comments tonight. The reason I said, have you read it, because I know you always come up with comments, and I hadn't heard any, so then you did, so that was really cool. So since there isn't a meeting, I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving, and don't eat too much turkey, and we will see you in
In
December.
December.
Turkey is my food security.
Yes. And then go walking on the trails, so.
And so we are adjourned at 7:34.
See, we- we-
34.
Scavenger hunt.